Hello, everybody. My name is Janessa Barlow, and today I'm going to be talking to you about motivation. So, what is motivation? According to our text, motivation is a set of forces that lead people to behave in particular ways. So, in other words, motivation is, they call it a set of forces. So, by set of forces, they mean circumstances or incentives. And so as we talk about motivation, one theorist suggested there is an internal motivation where you're motivating yourself. You're saying to yourself that, look, you can do this. You got this. Maybe around a position, you can say to yourself, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And, you might be feeling bad and wake up in the morning or some mornings I do this quite often. I wake up and I'm saying, thank God for another day. And then I'm saying, oh God, the joy of the Lord is my strength, because I'm motivating myself to get moving for the day. So that's what we'll talk about a little bit. So again, like I said, some theorists believe that motivation comes from within, which is self-motivation, motivation when you're listening to speakers that help to inspire you to things. And so then you have external motivation. Now, external motivation is a little different, because from external motivation, we're talking about job satisfaction. We're talking about accomplishments. That's like, okay, for instance, I'm in school now and I'm pursuing my master's degree. But some days I have to look back at even my associate's degree and my bachelor's degree to help motivate me towards the fact that I can do this. This has been a very hard journey for me, but I have to look at some external things around me. Like, for instance, I said, my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree. As a matter of fact, when I got my associate's degree, I did that in the midst of just pure craziness in my life. But every day down inside me was something saying that you can do this. Every day I pressed and I pushed on. There would be days that things got a little hard, or I had a class that was extremely hard, and I would be somewhere in the corner of the school bawling my eyes out. And then God always sent some little angel along. And at that time, actually, it was a security guard at Lawson State Community College who would, he always seemed to be right there when I was at my lowest point. And he would just come and talk to me and motivate me, point out the fact that, look at you, you're on the honor roll, you're on the honors list, you're a member of the there's an honor society. And, he would just encourage me. And so those times really got me through. And then even as I was going through my own little situations, I say that motivation is down inside of me, because I always found myself in a place where I could pray for somebody. I found myself in a place where I was telling others, you know what, you got this. It's going to be okay. You can do this, And so motivation, I believe, is a very important but attribute, I guess I would say. I think it's important for us to understand that everybody is going through something. And so so in order for us to walk around this earth and not realize that sometimes it's not just about you. As a matter of fact, most times it's not just about us. And so there are people around who need encouragement. There's people around who need prayer. And prayer is a form of external motivation, at least in my eyes. And so the next thing that I want to talk about is my journal article review. Now, the article that I did, it was about motivation of employees that are product service system providers. And what they do is they provide like an extended customer service. So for instance, you bought a stove from them, from this company. We'll say Maytag. You bought a stove from Maytag and they've come out, they've installed your stove and everything is going fine. But then there's something else. Say for instance, the light in the oven doesn't come on. And so what the product service system providers did, they would go through, you could call them, they would go through a process and they would help you to determine why your light wasn't coming back on. Was it something you missed in the instructions? Was it something the technician forgot to do? And so with that, That's basically what they did. But the article actually was about motivating the employees because, as you, some of you probably know, it's really hard to deal with the public, and sometimes people can be mean, and so they needed, the article just discussed how important it was to keep them motivated, because actually as they're motivated and they are made to feel valued, they carry that on to the customers, and therefore this creates a long-term customer base. It creates loyalty from your customers, and so it's very important that they're motivated. And another aspect of motivation that I talked about in my paper was how some theorists think that there's been an assumption made that the leaders, the ones who should be doing the motivating, that they themselves are motivated. And that's I thought that was kind of deep, because you automatically assume, well, because this person is the head of the human resource department, or because this person is the pastor even, or because this person is the head of the choir, that they don't need motivating. And that's not necessarily true. So sometimes, even as a leader, you need somebody to come along and say, you know what, you're doing a great job. I know that this is hard, and it looks like, some days the team doesn't quite get you or understand what the goal is for the company, but you're doing a great job. So sometimes I think it's important that we motivate leaders. So now, as far as my theory is concerned, in my research paper, I talked about, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I am concerned, about motivation, I believe there's just really no substitute for it. I believe that we're coming into a season where you're seeing employees, their employee, I guess motivation is the word, but it's at an all-time low. There's another word that I'm looking for that I can't pull up right now in my brain, so excuse me for that. But yeah, so your employees nowadays go through so much, and I don't care what line of work you're in. We're working in a time where you have a lot of disgruntled employees coming back, and we see these and hear about these mass shootings, from disgruntled employees. And so my theory would be that there's no substitute for motivation. My theory would be that there's not really another avenue an organization should use to help their employees. I think that there should be in-services. I believe that there should be, workshops and retreats and all this, not just for the employees, but also for the leaders. So again, motivation is very important. And that was the point that I hope to convey in my paper, how important it is to motivate others and to be motivated even within yourself. And so when it comes to a biblical perspective, I think that Jesus was the guru. He was the one, the creator. He created everything. And I think that he was the king of motivation. If you look back in the Bible, though, we'll see times where you have great leaders like Moses. Okay, Moses had a nation of people that he had to lead, and these people were disgruntled, they were complainers, they were scared, but yet Moses was able to lead them to the promised land. And, Moses got angry. There was a point, if you look at, I forgot the scripture, it's in Exodus, I think it's Exodus 20, where it talks about how Moses, he was so frustrated. One time God told him to speak to the rock, but instead of speaking to the rock, he was so angry, he hit the rock, not once, but twice. And so, you got a nation of people behind you that you're trying to get somewhere, and they're resisting. That had to be hard. So I'm saying that to say motivation is not always easy. It's not always just pepping people up. It's not always about just, a colorful employee of the year employee of the year billboard, or whatever the board is they put inside the offices, but it's more to it than that. So like I said, Jesus, I think, motivated the disciples constantly when he was at the Last Supper with them. They were, after his resurrection, when he came back, he had to motivate them because now they're getting ready to go. And what he gave them was the Great Commission. I call that the motivation speech of all times. Was the Great Commission because he's telling them the things that I've done, now you're going to do. And so I hope that you were able to get an understanding of my theory of motivation. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I pray your blessings throughout the course. Thank you, and God bless.